Hello and welcome to the show. Here is your Four Walls educational program that looks at every situation around Nigerian education system. I am Mr. Adolf. This is your Four Walls. On this special episode, I will be discussing the issue of 10.5 million Nigerian children that are not going to school. That is UNICEF's report. Many people have been asking, could that be true? So I decided to look inwards who is going to be discussing this kind of issue critically and examining the real issues around more than 10.5 million Nigerian children not going to school. So I decided to go visit Dr. Ladipo. He's an associate professor in education administration, University of Lagos Education Faculty. Here is what I discussed with him. Many thanks for joining us, sir.
Thank you very much.
So according to UNICEF, there are over 10.5 million children out of school currently in Nigeria. Many people are saying that these figures are fabricated. It's not true. Some other people are saying, if it's true, how come a lot of children go to school in the southern and western region? How do they come up with these figures? What are you saying about this?
We don't have to condemn UNICEF for giving the figure of out-of-school children in Nigeria. What we need to address is the problem of out-of-school. We should not contend with the figure. We should address the alarming rate at which students or children are out of school.
How did we even get to this point in the first place?
Nigeria, like we have rightly said, if you look at the level of illiteracy in sub-Saharan Africa, about 133 million adults are illiterates, out of which 60 million of them are adults in Nigeria. So that corroborates what UNICEF has said. Based on that, we have to look at the challenges facing the educational sector at all levels, the primary level, the secondary level, the tertiary level. They all have problems. And so, like you have rightly asked, how did we get here? We have a number of issues that have not been addressed, beginning from insufficient funding of education. You look at all levels, you'll discover that facilities are deteriorated. We have shortage of staff. We have inconsistent policies. We have a number of issues that should be addressed. And you see, look at the rate at which the unions are going on strike at all levels. The NUT, you see, and go to polytechnics, go to colleges of education, go to universities. You know, people are not happy with the system. And what is the main problem? The main problem is that we have not worked across the basic needs, meeting the basic needs of education in Nigeria. One, the policy must be consistent. There is the need to improve the allocation to education. You see, we agreed that minimum of about 26% of our annual budget should go into education. But we have not made even 10%. Between 10 and 13%. That's where we are struggling to enter, which is grossly inadequate for the needs of education in Nigeria at all levels. And that's why we have declined quality in education. You know, if you look at what people are saying now, generally, we have declining quality, then we have problem of access in education. All these revolve around the allocation, the budgetary allocation to education. You know, we cannot meet the facilities that are modern facilities that are needed in the educational sector today. We cannot employ qualified teachers. We cannot train those that are there. We cannot meet the demands of facilities for teaching and learning. And so we cannot meet the demand of the enrollment in Nigeria today. The population is increasing daily. The schools are not increasing. The existing schools are not expanded. Existing facilities are not improved. All these are the factors militating against quality provision of education. And so we have to address that. These are the problems. Talking from when the UPE was introduced to when the UBE also has been introduced. No, we have not been able to meet the requirements. We have not been able to meet the facilities needed. We have not been able to meet the personnel needed. We have not been able to train the teachers needed. We have not been able to train the non-teaching staff needed in at all levels of education. So we have a lot of challenges. And that's why I read recently that educational sector, there is the need to declare a state of emergency in the education sector. It is true that we need to declare state of emergency in education. Look at the number of applicants into our tertiary institutions. Over 1 million candidates are applying every year to our tertiary institutions. How many can we take? Nigerian educational tertiary institutions cannot absorb 20% of that. So that's the problem of access. And you see, government also, federal government also has been making efforts to expand access by improving or by approving private institutions, private colleges of education, private polytechnics, private universities, in order to meet the high demand in tertiary education. What about our secondary schools? What about our primary schools? We have increased number of private schools today in all states of the federation. So these are the ways by which we can meet, but we need to regulate the level at which these schools are springing up, because we have to be very careful of the number of outputs. We have to increase. I mean, we have to regulate the kind of facilities. These schools must meet the standards set by federal government, by state governments, as the case may be.
On Digi 360, we don't just ask the questions. What is wrong with amending the Constitution the way the National Assembly members have been doing it? We seek answers.
Constitution is constituent. Our problem is not lack of laws. Our problem is lack of the willpower to implement our laws.
Answers that provide clarity.
While we negotiate, we should try to make it a point that the girls must be complete.
The clarity you need to make informed judgment so that you can make the right decision and take action.
People are saying it is you politicians that are responsible for this, that you are the reason why this is happening. All these dollars that call themselves governors in this country.
I wish we had people like Tony at the National Assembly.
God forbid that I go to join that band.
Digi 360, providing clarity to issues.
Let's turn our attention to the northern region of the country, where, according to the same report by UNICEF, 60% of the out-of-school children in Nigeria are from that region. What is your comment on that?
Well, I want to agree with UNICEF position that majority of the out-of-school children are in the northern part of Nigeria. I want to agree with them, because you look at a number of issues, a number of challenges facing the northern part of Nigeria. Well, let us look at the issue of insurgency, for instance. That may be a problem. The issue of Almajiri, that may be a problem. The pastoralist issues, That's another issue. You know, it's socio-cultural in nature. And so this must be addressed. It's a business of Nigeria, not a business of northern Nigeria. So anything that happens to a part of Nigeria affects the entire nation. So what happens in the northern part, what is happening in the northern part of Nigeria is affecting the entire system. And so this must be addressed. So all our politicians must address this. No, all political parties must address education. Education is priority. If you don't get your priority right, if you don't get your educational sector right, it will affect all sectors of the economy. It is the educational sector that set the pace for technological development, for political development, for economic development. It is the educational sector that dictates the quality of people that goes into politics, the quality of people that will man the different sectors of the economy, even the security. So if you don't get your education sector right, all other sectors will be affected negatively. And that is one of the problems of development. So education must be addressed. To bail Nigeria out of the mess that we have found ourselves in terms of educational decline, there is the need to review the entire political system, the entire system, the entire educational system. We have to reform the entire educational system to meet the demands of the day. What are the demands? What are those things that we need in Nigeria today? Technological development. So our focus must be on entrepreneur. Entrepreneurship education must be addressed, must be focused on. Technological development must be focused upon. Then training students, training staff, bringing in educational facilities that will address this area. These are the things that we must look into. The facilities that are needed to train the students technologically, to train them to give them vocational education. All this needs to be properly arranged, properly organized. The staff must be properly trained. The student must be properly trained to make them self-reliant and to reduce the rate of unemployment in Nigeria.
With all the circumstances on the table, what would you suggest would be the necessary strategies for building a solid educational system in Nigeria with all of this?
There is the need for our administrators, our politicians, our leaders to look into the issues of insecurity. Insecurity, because this will also affect the movement of people from one part of the country to another. And so those that are not budgeted for will also affect the budget of those that are budgeted for, for their own. But insecurity is a major problem in Nigeria today, which we'll need to address seriously. Those that are in the northern part of Nigeria, basically and predominantly, we have the Almajiris, we have a good number of out-of-school children there, and so there is the need for us to have different programs for the different culture, for the different situations in this part of of Nigeria. And so vocational education is important, and entrepreneurship education is also very important. Then our universities, our colleges of education, our polytechnics should address these areas, should focus on these areas. Expansion should be on these areas so that these out-of-school children will be trained to use their hands. Maybe there are a good number of things that could be done, vocations that can be introduced to them while on the road. So there is the need for the leaders to focus on these areas of education: vocational education, technical education, technology, and so many areas like that where the students can learn and to be independent and to fend for themselves on leaving school. But where they drop out of school as a result of bullying, as a result of inadequate facilities, as a result of consistent failure, as a result of non-availability of funds, as a result of talent hunts, and so many other things, the federal government must look into all this and address them so that it will not continue to affect the development of the nation. There is no way you can talk about development and not bringing in education. It's education that is the bedrock of development. And so if education is not addressed, whether in the northern part of Nigeria or in the southern part of Nigeria, there will be problem of development.
Thank you so much for your time on this show. It's wonderful.
Thank you.
Cut. All right. What's your name again? Kemi?
Yes, sir.
Good. Are you ready for us for next week?
Yes, sir.
Next.
No, sir. No.
What? Look, what we need here is one who can speak fluent English. Give her a chance.
I need a angel to hold me. Hold me, my beautiful angel.
Cut! It is Angel, not Angel. Please, I'm done with you. Excuse us. Kemi was far better.
It's not about our rendition. It's not about our performance here. By the time she and her friends join us in our hotel rooms, you will know how far.
Can I have her phone?
She has a robust profile.
Real robust profile. I do not undercut professional ethics. It is an act of corruption. Not in my country.
Corruption not in my country.
Stop corruption now.
Welcome back. That is the wonderful interview with Dr. Bayo Ladipo from University of Lagos. He is the Associate Professor in Education Administration. He critically examined the issues around these 10.5 million Nigerian children not attending school at all. So the report, according to UNICEF, many have been condemning it, saying that it's not true about the Nigerian education system. But from what you heard Dr. Ladipo saying, it's true due to so many reasons that he pointed out. That is to tell you that we are really struggling with Nigerians' development if education system is facing this kind of trauma. That puts also Nigeria as the only country in the world that has that highest number of out-of-school children. Very, very saddening. So, until I come your way next time, remember that education is the bedrock of every succeeding society. Don't always forget that. Have a wonderful time. Goodbye.